What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Survivor Now podcast. My name is Randy, and today I have the honor of being joined by an incredible guest. Let me just run you down his game here. We had a bit of a miscommunication when I saw you were eliminated episode 21, but it was not day 21 you left the game. Left the game 42 days in, finished a very impressive 7th place, the last surviving member of the Blood Tribe, when literally all of us wrote him off after week 1. Super impressive game. Everyone, please welcome Juicy Dave. And yes, I have to call you Juice, and we'll get to that. But David, how are you doing today, man?
Yeah, thanks, Randy. Yeah, no, really good, man. Just great to be here. Thanks for that intro. That's pretty, making it sound.
It was impressive. You have to live up to the hype here because your game was awesome.
You'd written me off, eh?
I did. I owe you a huge apology. I don't know if you went back and listened to it, but after that Sam incident, everyone on the podcast, while we were talking about it, we said if there's no way David makes it past week 2. There's absolutely no way. I can't remember, but I said I was going to do something kind of wacky or funny. I'm like, if David makes it past week 2, I'll eat like a rotten egg. I haven't gone back and listened to it,
we need to listen to that. We need to listen to that audio and reconvene.
I'm gonna let you know. I'm actually gonna go back probably later tonight or tomorrow, and I'll let you know exactly what I said because I gotta do it because you definitely lived up to the hype there. But before we get to your gameplay, I do want to say I had the privilege of interviewing your daughter Mila last week. I had a awesome time with her, and I interview Brianna tomorrow. So you're kind of in the middle here, the family. Yeah. I know they're both busy. Brianna has a podcast herself. She's also a very impressive roller skater. I don't know how she does a lot of the stuff she does. And then Mila is pursuing her dream, basketball and everything. So what is Juicy Dave up to? What are you up to since the game's kind of let out here?
Oh, geez, nothing as exciting as those two. But, my field is, if you ever saw the intro, was development construction. So I'm back into it. There's a $700 million project we're working on. It's full blown. It's, working with teams of people specialize in property and construction. So I enjoy it. It's good fun. It has its pressures, probably a good training ground for some of the Survivor stuff.
Yeah, congratulations, man. I know when you get those big jobs, it's like, especially in the construction world, that's like a huge deal and everything. So congratulations on that. Have you become kind of a celebrity since you've been on the show? Because I know the fans loved you, man. At least what I know, the fans loved you.
I don't know. I think they're pretty shy in Brisbane, to be honest. I get getting a lot of side stares. Look. I think that guy. I had a random. I commute to work, riding my bike. I ride a lot, and there's a guy that it literally looked like it was a homeless guy, and I'm just seeing him there. I ride past. He says, "Juicy Dave." So that sort of blew me away. I had a couple of things where I was invited to we had a cycle event here, and just Land Rover and Jaguar had sponsored it. And the owner of that guy goes, he was introduced, and it was Dave, and old mate introduced me and said, Juicy Dave. And he thought, oh, there's so many Daves around, and old Juicy Dave. And then he just looks at me and goes, holy smokes, man, you are Juicy Dave. Because he just recognised me. And, you got all these crazy people just going, where do I know you from? Maybe cycling? No, maybe TV. Oh.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, it took me a minute to realize when you joined in, I'm like, who is this guy? Because you're clean shaven nowadays. I don't know. Yeah. Is that you go clean shaven? Because on the show, I was expecting full beard and everything.
No, that's right. So entering in clean shaven, went wild during the show, 42 days, and that extra week, and then basically kept the beard because I felt I'd grown to like it. But I came to this point where I went, right, the show is finished and we're almost at a wrap, and time to move on. So
no, I feel
clean.
Yeah, they can get in the way. I'm just saying that there might be more people who recognize you, man, with the beard and everything. But I will say you did a great job. You said it right there. There's a lot of Davids in the world, and you have Golden God David from Survivor Australia. And how do you separate yourself there? And you did a great job. So I got to get into this because I know this is going to be everybody's question. And the edit really did not do you justice when this huge moment happened. How did Juice get started? I'm sure you've said it on some other interviews and stuff, but was that just Jonathan saying, I'm going to start calling you Juicy?
No, so that was interesting. And there is a meme, if you go searching for Channel 10, the Survivor channel did do a meme on it because it must have been the most requested question out there. They just kept pestering them until they answered the question. So it's a classic. But really where it came from, you go back to that where I was doing my first deal with Sammy, and her and I. She's come over to me and we're sitting at the campfire. Everyone else is sort of occupied, and she says, "I want to work with you." And I was excited about that because here I'm a novice at the Survivor game itself. I've watched it and I know the whole thing, but I'm not a super fan. Mm-hmm. And I'm in this tribe of absolute weapons. I'm thinking now I've got to how do I start making moves here? Because it's all a bit, just like a Sunday camp. Everyone's out camping, having a good time. All of a sudden, Sam's asking, and I went, wow, this is it. This is the beginning. So that was great. And,
you have Sandra in one corner too. You decide to go head on head with the queen.
We'll get to that one. But so anyway, we were Sam, and then and I'm thinking this is great. I've now got someone, and we can build on that. And then it'll come into the social butterfly question down the track too. But the next day we lose our challenge. We're off to tribal, and there's all these conversations happening which I'm not a part of, and I'm thinking, well, hold on. This is can only be if you're not talking the plan, you are the plan sort of scenario. So there's a little bit of a paranoia going on there. And I'd also happened to have the idol from the store, and I'd created that story about getting the advantage because I knew Sandra and the likes would absolutely, and everyone said that was totally unconvincing, but had to come up with a story. And most of it was true, except it was, instead of the advantage, it was the idol. And right before tribal, so I'm getting a little bit paranoid because Sam's not talking to me; she's talking to everybody else. And Amy comes up to me and goes, "Dave, we know you got the idol," because her brother can't, obviously, and we've just done the challenge, so they're talking across the mat in their languages. And so Amy's going, "You've got the idol," and so all of a sudden I'm going, "What could be worse than not having an idol is having a public idol?" And I thought, gee whiz, if I've got this tomorrow and everyone knows it, I am target number one, public enemy, the whole deal. It's early days. No one should have an idol. And here we go. So paranoia plus this information getting out, we go into tribal. So then we get in there, and Jonathan basically says, "So Dave," he always asks me, the first question of every tribal was me.
Naturally, they target instantly. They know the person who's in trouble.
Well, it must have been mine for 42 days because every single one he asked me, except for the jury, and he asked me last. Which is, we'll get to that too. Yeah. And so he says, "Dave, so what's your feel on the play?" And I said, "Oh no, I think everyone should be nervous. You never know, your name's up. I would imagine, that even my name could be up there." And he goes, "Really? Why would you say this?" And I said, "Wow, a Juicy Dave blindside has a bit of a ring to it." And he goes, "Juicy Dave blindside?" I said, "Yeah, it's got a ring to it, isn't it?" And he goes, "No."
Wait, so you started the name?
So I've just gone there because I'm thinking Juicy Dave blindside, because I'm thinking, mate, these buggers are going to blindside me, and I'm going to call them out right here if it is, and see if I can rattle it a bit. So I went into that tribal going, I'm going to wake the snoozers and rattle the players, and I was waiting for the opportunity to do it because I had this idol, and I thought, no, there's a whole bunch of people just sleeping, having a good old camp life, and there's play going on, and then there's this whole other side who are playing like full blown, and it's all happening. So we got to get this happening. So there you have it. And then from that point on, it then goes into the whole scenario of okay, so if I'm going to open this up, who's out there, and it becomes I'm talking about the social butterflies and the whole deal, and it goes crazy. Jonathan, to his skill set, gets me to the point that I actually mentioned names. So it was all third party, who knows who, but this is what's going on. There's secret communication codes between parties. There's social butterflies, and he gets me to point Sam. She takes offence. I go, well, you're the one jumping around from bed to bed, talking to people like it, doing what you're doing, and then at that point, and she admitted this, I'd just blown her whole cover of this social, beautiful person, but she actually was.
Did she say something? Because this was one of our questions here, so we can just go. We can just go into it because you've done a great job explaining everything. And did she say something at Tribal? Because it's so easy for everyone to sit on their couches and sit here and judge and be like, "Oh, Dave, what are you doing? You're ruining your game. That was such a stupid move," and yada yada yada. It's different when you're on the island and you don't hear everyone. You have no idea that Sam is really putting up a fight for you. We don't see Sam go to you directly and say, "Dave, I got your back. I'm helping you out." We just see her kind of doing it behind the scenes and everything. So obviously it's easier for us to say, "Oh, Dave, why are you doing that? Why are you calling her out?" But it's harder when you're on the island. It's much harder. And I couldn't even imagine it. I haven't been out there, but I know it's harder. But was there something she said at Tribal that made you target Sam directly to where you were saying, well, she's the social butterfly over here? Or was that kind of like a last ditch effort because you knew you were on the chopping block?
Well, this is the thing. So I was there to stir it up. I and I wanted to expose some of that gameplay. And I'd woken up with Sam. So Sam and I, she's come on over, let's work together. And then I've been watching her going, holy smokes, she is just going from person to person saying the same thing. So I lost a lot of trust out of that, thinking, so she's just telling everyone the same thing to get all the stories. And I thought, this is amazing. She'll be going to control this tribe in no time. So I wanted to just expose that. I didn't necessarily want to mention her by name, but Jonathan sort of pressed. She got offended at something I'd said, and I can't quite recall what triggered it. So she's had a crack, and then I've gone, well, you're the social butterfly jumping from bed to bed. That set it off. In her interviews, I think the interview the next day, she actually said, well, Dave had just blown my cover. He had to go because he was just going to tell everyone that was my game plan. And there she steps up and gets everybody to vote for her, which is
was very hard to watch.
Oh my God. Because I'm just thinking, wow, yes. Because I did mention one of my things going in was not to offend people. Don't try whatever you do not to offend. You can talk facts and stuff, but the moment you offend someone, they're very hard to recover. And what had happened, she was offended and just went, no, I'm going to wipe this guy off the planet. And
I was begging you, Dave, to play your idol. I'm like, if Dave doesn't play his idol here, this is going to be a terrible look for you, man, because I was like, this would be terrible here because it seemed so obvious at that point that you were the one going home.
Yeah. I had a rush of power at that point because I had the idol there and I'd stirred it up and you get to a tipping point where you go, there's no recovery from this. And I went, no, you know what? And then I gave it some. And this is where Juicy came from because the guys said, we never want to see Juicy again. We like Camp Dave. Juicy Dave is too wild. That cannot happen again. Because I just let them have it. And they didn't play any of that. And it's all timing and all that. And, but I was just, because I had this rush because I knew, yes, they're going to vote all against me. So they're going to cop it now.
and I'm just going to save myself. And then here's what I thought. So tomorrow will be a challenge day, and that'll be a food reward challenge, sorry. And then the next day will be a tribal challenge. So if we lose that, I've at least got 2 days to work on them. If we win that, then it's 4 days. So I can recover from this if I can actually just get some time play. So in my mind, I'm thinking, no, this is good. My next decision is, who do I vote for here? Because if everyone's voting me, I might actually bump Sam out the window. And this is where she's clever.
Super smart. I'm trying to remember who goes home. It was so long ago. Who went home that episode?
Kate.
That's Kate. Right. Yeah, it was Kate. Yes.
So Sam is that onto it that she's actually gone, if everyone votes Dave, he could actually vote me out. So she's gone and voted a wild card Sandra. Now this is big. This is the stuff that like
this is the casual fans where they don't look back at this and realize that in Sam's game. They just forget about that. Like you said, that's a huge move.
Master play. And it played so well for her because, of course, Sandra gets obsessed with anyone who's voted for her. And who's the biggest target? Who is the guy blowing himself up? And what Sandra said, that trouble was a shit show, she said. It was so Sam has
one
lined
of the classic
me
lines
up.
this season.
Yeah. She has lined me up to take. Now Sam is just protecting herself because she thought, if Dave votes me and everyone else votes him, then it's a draw. One Sandra, one me, and everyone will just go, wow, what's going on. So as it turned out, I went, I went into mode and I went, the tribe needs to be strong. We need the strongest so we don't get to another tribal. We need to win more. So in my mind at that point, Kate was the choice, and we ended up voting Kate out, which she thought she was on the chopping block, and then she saw me going on Jonathan's.
She's like, I got it.
This is great.
And then she's still out the door. That's the most Survivor phrase I've ever heard. That's the game of Survivor. And I was happy to see you still in the game, but I do have to say, going back to it, I was like, there's no way he makes it past this. And the last thing I'll say on the whole Juicy part that got us started here is learning that Juicy Dave is actually an alter ego is super exciting to find out. We had so many Batman references this season. Everyone wants to talk about Two-Face and the Joker. Next time I watch a Batman movie, I want to see when the Juicy character chimes in. Just some side character here. But the reason I thought exactly. The reason I thought you're down and out and there's no way you could continue in this game was we don't see this a lot on Survivor when someone blows up their game and then they just continue blowing up their game as the show goes on. We talked about on the podcast at the time, this is what Dave needs to do if he wants to stay in the game. And we didn't think you'd actually do it, but you did. You go back to camp and you yourself do a masterful move and you say, okay, I really pissed everyone off here. I need to kind of take a step back and just kind of play my cards right and go along with the flow. And you end up making it, and we'll talk about the end of the game later, but you end up making it to day 42. So walk me through what was going through that decision here and kind of, okay, I need to take a step back and reevaluate where I am with this tribe.
I think Jonathan said it, the wolves hunt as a pack, but the lone wolf can go very hungry. And I'm walking back, just going, what have I done? Holy smoke. Because Sam, when she walked past me, she says, smooth move. She was impressed. Yeah, she was impressed. And saving myself like that. And then we walked back and I'm just thinking, holy smokes, this is going to be a pretty tough night going back to camp and carrying on. So, but then I get into hard mode and I go, you know what, bring it on, people. I'll deal with it. And I get back to camp, and of course, Sam especially wants to know what on earth are you doing. So then I play it back as not a premeditated sort of event, but as a paranoia got the worst of me, and her and I had a bit of connection there because she said, "Okay, I get you now.
I spoke to you and said you were covered, so you should have understood that was covered. And I said, yeah, you spoke to me and then didn't include
Went to
me in
everyone
anything
else. Yeah.
And I said, and I'm a person that needs cross-reference of information. So one person saying this or doing that is not enough. I need to cross-reference it, and there was no reference to it. So she's clever. So she goes, from then on, communication was about cross-referencing for me. She said, Dave, and you can check this with, and she'd do that. And our communication became really good. And so I went to her and I said, and this is, I pulled her aside from the rest and I said, so what do you reckon I've got to do to recover here?
Really?
She's clever. She's social, yeah. And she said, wow, you got a long way to go. There's people pissed off with that. And I said, yeah, but in the end of the day, I was just blown up. The paranoia, the pressure. This is the first time I'm a new player. And she goes, well, you'd have to apologise. So that night, and it showed a bit of it, I think, on this. There's that night I got up there and said, guys, before we go to bed, I just want to say something, and fully apologised. Fully just said, I blew up. I know I put everyone in an uncomfortable position. I spotted people out and I made it uncomfortable. And that I apologise profusely for that. And you probably won't see that again. But it's just this communication thing, and blah blah blah. Everyone sort of went, well, good on you for doing that in a public forum and being humble enough to be able to say it. Because I could have taken two ways. I'm going to just charge in there and keep swinging the sword, or yield to it, and away we go.
Back.
That's right. Look, my whole game plan. I was the oldest guy on the show, so and I listened to Hayley's podcast, and she said, "Oh, typically the oldest go first." So I never mentioned my age, and the thing was, I just knew I had to. I was always at a point where I was vulnerable, so I had to just befriend these people, and it was a matter of just getting in the camp, telling stories, and becoming part of that life.
This is my favorite part about doing the interviews. Stuff like that. You said you going up to Sam and asking her, what do I need to do to get out of this? Apologizing to the entire tribe. This is stuff that we just don't see. Instead, we see the edit shows you like off on your lonesome. And I'm like, someone just
like
talk
this?
to Dave.
Like this?
Yeah.
Kicking cans?
Someone just go to Lonely Dave. I'm like sitting there. I'm like, this is so hard to watch. I feel so bad for the guy. You were like that kid at school that just outed everyone out and no one wanted to talk to you. So I'm happy to hear that behind the scenes, there were people talking to you and everything. Still there?
Yeah, just hang in there. There we go. Yep.
You're all good. But the true dynamic of the game, we can get into all of this, what actually went into gameplay and moving forward in the game, but we can't miss the blood versus water part of this season, which everybody loves. You got to play with your daughter Brianna. Is it okay? You gotta fill me in here. Is it Brianna or Brianna? Brianna. See, over here, I kept saying Brianna because we go the "and" over here in the States. So
you get away with it with American accent, so that's all good.
I kept thinking, I'm like,
Brianna.
I feel like it's Brianna. Yeah. But you got to play the game with her on one hand. And then on the other hand, you guys never got on the same tribe, unfortunately, together. And we see there's multiple emotional parts this season. There's the moment you find out she got voted off from the water tribe. And then a little later down the road, when you get voted out, we see a very emotional exit kind of scene where you say, how much this game means to her. So there's a two-part to this. How did this all get started with you two going on the show together? Who started the talk of, hey, we should really do this? And then the second part to this is when you found out she was no longer in the game. How hard did that really hit you in that moment?
Yeah, no, good questions. So Brianna's obviously the super fan. Brianna has applied for Survivor, one of the early series, either 1 or 2 in Australia, Survivor, and got close. And it was a heart condition thing that they basically said, too risky, and she got popped off and someone else got in there who ended up going a long way, I think. Brianna is one of these goal-setting people, and she said, I'd introduced the family to Survivor, and then she took it that bit further and said, before I die, I am going to be on the game of Survivor. And so it came up again, and she applied. She calls me at work and says, Dad, can you check over my video? And I'm going to send it in. Looked at it, showed some of the work here, and I went, oh, that's fantastic. Sends it in there. Calls up and says, Dad, I think they're interested. And I said, oh, that's fantastic. Keep going. Says, calls me up a week later. Dad, no, getting further than ever before. I think I'm in with a shot here. And I said, this is amazing. Go for it, darling. This is what you always wanted. It's your dream. She said, oh, they just want to meet one of the family members. I said, oh, that's interesting. What's that about? And they said, didn't say, just want to meet someone. I said, righto, so what are you going to talk to Mila? She says, no, it doesn't work timing-wise in America. Oh, right. You're going on with your brother or something? And she said, no, Connor won't do it. I said, well, you're going on with your mum. She said, I'd never go on Survivor with mum. I said,
so you were the last option.
Hold on. This is, I'm going, what are you talking about? She goes, Dad, no, we've got an interview with you. You have got an interview tomorrow at 6 p.m. with the executive producer. Dad, you've got to do this. This is my dream. Come on. And I'm at work here.
I was going to say, are you in the middle of work when this is going on?
I'm dropping through the floor, just going, are you crazy? What are you talking about? She said, Dad, just do it. Just do it. Just go the step until they ask you, you have to commit to this date. Just roll with it. And this is part of this flexibility thing. You know, you can be very rigid and go, I can't do it. Therefore, dream ended. I went, yeah, okay, I'll do the interview. And she said, they probably won't like you anyway, Dad. Too old.
Not with that attitude, they won't.
Anyway, we get the interview. They said, we'll get back to you within a week. Nothing happened in a week. And I called her up and I said, how'd it go? She said, I haven't heard anything. She said, it's a bit strange. They should have by now. And I'm just going, well, I did my bit, about a week and 3/4. Dad, they loved you.
And you realize, Juicy Dave realizes at this moment, he messed up.
Now I've got to come up. Now it's like, what am I going to tell? How do I explain this to work? What's this entail entirely? And next minute there's medicals, there's physicals, there's psychological testing, and a whole bunch of info. And it just so happens that a tenant we're working on, the project here, had gone with another developer and left this void, which exactly happened at the time this ran. So I ran it. And this only happened late because there was a point where I was talking to the psych and he says, anything concerning you? I said, well, reality is I don't know if I can actually go on the show. And then they went, Brianna, you need to find someone else. Went through all the cousins and everyone, came back to me. This tenant left this opening. And I said, yeah, well, I probably can do it. Bang, here we go. We're on. Next minute, we're getting flown up into isolation. Unbelievable.
You never thought about going on the show yourself, like beforehand? Because you said you got the family kind of into the show.
Yeah, I used to work away and I just watched the American Survivor. I said, guys, you got to watch this show. This is like a social experiment on TV. It is awesome to watch. Never realizing that I'd ever be part of the lab rat being watched. And I always said this was Brianna's dream and probably my nightmare.
That's a good way to put it.
Going on TV at my age, career and everything, I've done all this, and going onto TV, getting critiqued, playing with young cool dudes who just want to get rid of you or bash you, and I'm just thinking, no, this is got to be my worst nightmare. And here I was signing up to the whole show, so that was crazy, but experience of a lifetime. Tick, absolutely, and what a great game. To answer the second part of it, when Brianna got voted out, now they asked me before. They said, Jonathan said, "Are you worried about Brianna tonight in the trial?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I am worried because you had the sock. So one sock down, one sock up meant you're in trouble. Two socks up, idle. Socks down, all good."
So that's something that you guys had.
Yeah, we had a little code. So I'd seen her come in
And she had the one sock down, one sock up. And I'm going, oh, she must have messed up the thing because she's a social kid. She knows how to handle herself. So I couldn't imagine that she'd be in trouble so early. But then, I went, oh, well. And then Jonathan saying, oh, you worried about Brianna tonight? I said, no, no. And I knew that she could be in trouble with the code. And I said, look, she's a great kid and she knows how to handle herself and she's a great team member and they'd be crazy to get rid of her. And then coming back to the next challenge and she's gone, it tore my heart out because I knew this was her dream and I knew she had so much potential play there. And, I couldn't work out why on earth that they'd vote her out. As it turns out, she went in with the jets blazing. She maybe needed to cool those jets just a bit. But, but she was a game player. And she's fearless. So when she got voted out, I just went, I can't waste this opportunity. I've got to get serious and go my hardest to do the best for the family now that she's out prematurely, as far as I was concerned. Because we went in there and I said, look, probably the way it's going to work, I'll get in there, survive hopefully survive the first tribal, knocked off the second tribal, and then you take away and win it. If we both get through, then we'll have some good times because it would have been great to be playing with her.
It was definitely one of the most emotional parts of the season. I was going to tell her this when I speak with her. I see the type of player that I will probably end up being a lot in her, like kind of that social butterfly type person. And even when you said that, she said, I will be on Survivor before I die. I've said that exact thing word for word to my family. So it felt very personal to me. I didn't have this question written down, but I just thought of it. Was it harder watching it back? Watching what happened with her, or was it harder, when you were on the show and it actually happened in the moment?
Two things there. And the moment that she was off, that was true blue, chin quivering, and then this fierceness of just they will pay for what they've done scenario came over me. I just went, no, we're winning this and we're going to make them suffer. And I really had some targets. And then, but to watch it unravel for her was just as hard. It was like I couldn't understand what had happened, but when I did see it, I went, oh, and it was awful to watch too, wasn't it? Just seeing her taking on, and overplaying it with the way the edit was. Obviously, that's the edit that chop it up and make a whole series of things into one that makes it super intense. And you say, why would you do that? But it was difficult. Yeah,
you
difficult
you definitely made the family proud. I know made Brianna proud. Even the moment that next challenge was probably the hardest challenge we saw all season, and it was that Sandbags challenge. And you were the one that climbed up on the sandbags, rang that bell, and if I remember correctly, you let out this loud scream, and it felt so good for you to be in that moment. I do want to cover this really quickly because I thought this was one of the best moments of the season, and I think I should have nominated it for funniest moment because it was really cool to see. You take Khan to the Survivor store, and we talked about it briefly because that's where you got the immunity idol, the super idol. But then you had a decision to make, not knowing that Khan was pretty much the reason Brianna was no longer in the game. You could either take 3 items back to your camp, or you can share it with Khan and let him have an item or so. And you said, no, we are not doing this. And Khan's like, you're seriously not going to give me an item. And you just pull out, not a chance. And it was wonderful to see. Was that, you knew you weren't going to give him anything heading into the Survivor store?
I had an inkling that he would be part of the Brianna demise. Him and Chrissy, they were the two that I went, those two were going to pay for it. I was death staring Chrissy as much as I could, and to get the opportunity to take Khan to the store. And then he said, if you send me in there with nothing, how do I
to me, that was like rolling a grenade into the camp. I just, to me,
Classic line. You remember the line you said.
Just going to roll that grenade in there because I wanted him to blow up. I wanted it to be the most awkward thing, and that whole camp to get unraveled a bit, for this whole exercise. So, yeah, there was no way I was yielding. And he's a charismatic guy. Like he can convince most things, but there was no way he was getting anything from me. I wanted him to go in uncomfortable, and I wanted him to suffer. And
that's where that was your evil villain arc right there. That's where you kind of turned.
Yeah, that's right. Because at that point, it was like, no, they can suffer for this. And as it turned out, he played it well because he just told them outright that he had an idol, effectively, and then it sort of hosed it down. So it was a little bit of an anticlimax for me. In my mind, I'm just thinking him getting mauled by the wolves, but didn't quite happen like that.
Obviously, everyone would have loved to see you guys play together. It would have been interesting to see how you guys work together. I think it could have been kind of a good cop, bad cop, depending on if Juicy Dave really came out, when Brianna was still in the game or not. But we have to talk about your game as well, because it's not just, you had that one moment with Sam and that was it for the rest of the season. We got to talk about one of the biggest moments where the game changed, when all of us thought that Mark, Josh, and Jordy and the group were just going to, well, not Jordy, but kind of run over everyone here, kind of pagong them, towards the end. And that was KJ got her huge advantage in the game. She sent Josh, I'm trying to remember, she sent a few people away from the
Josh, Mark, and it was Sam, it would have been.
No, Sam was. It was Sam was there because it was between Sam and.
Oh yes, Jordan.
Absolutely.
Jordan. That's right.
Can't remember. Yeah, it was definitely Josh and Mark. Chrissy, was it Chrissy?
Could have been, yeah, because it was taking out the main players. Yeah, it would have been Chrissy.
Yeah, I think it was Chrissy. So that left basically KJ, Jordy, Shay, you, Jordan, and Sam left at that tribal. And this is where Juicy Dave decided to make the decision to flip, go with the people who went to purgatory, and vote off Jordan, ultimately changing the game, pissing Josh off. So what was going behind this decision? Because it kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, you and Chrissy for weeks had kind of been talking back and forth based off what we saw about, is there a second idol? Should we be more concerned about this? Should we flip? And for the longest time, you guys were staying with Josh and Mark. And that was really the key turning point of the game. So what happened there, Juicy? Walk me through.
Yeah, this is good insight because and difficult through the edit. It's difficult to pick up any of that. But so we ended up down to our final 6. So it was Mark and Sam, Josh and Jordan, Chrissy and I, and then the other 3 were at purgatory. So that was the final 6. And that point there, everyone's, here we are. What a great bunch of people. However, the reality is, do you just want to be 6th? Better than what I can. But do you just want to be part of it, or do you want to win it? And I'm going, I am at the end of the road here. There is no way around this. It's blocked by 2 partners. So Chris has got no way around it there. And what am I going to do? And I was racking my brain. And then constantly I was with Josh saying, mate, these guys have got 1 idol, we know, 2 idols. There's a point where they will just step straight in, play those regardless, and step straight into the final. We've got to do something about it. And Josh was not convinced about the second one, and it is stubborn. He's as stubborn as it
Were
gets.
you believing, really quick, I know I'm interrupting here, but were you believing that second idol? Because that was the biggest talking point.
I went in and out of it because this is the problem with Jordy. Jordy, classic gameplay, but the guy had so many deals going. When he came out of that, he thought he was going to work with Mark and Sam, so he told everyone that just taken the idol home. Then he works out that Sam and Mark are going to stitch him up royally, so he changes his story that Sam's got the idol. Just didn't make sense.
that a clever guy like Jess would give his idol away to Sam, and Sam would end up owning it, voting him out. That it's just too beyond comprehension. However, he was so convinced about it, and this is why I said in one of those trials, we either got the greatest liar on earth over here, or the greatest liar
Oscar-worthy performances.
That's right. And we find out who it is ultimately. But he was like Cage Animal. So he was desperate to come up with anything. And that story was as wild as it could get. But it was so beyond comprehension that you had to go, there might be something in this. So initially he didn't believe it. Then I did believe it. And then he did something else that sort of eroded it. And I just went, yeah, maybe that is all rubbish. Because those guys were top-notch acting. It was difficult. But either way, he still had one. So he was still a block. And so I was trying to convince him. And then Chrissy came to me, and I hope she doesn't mind me saying this. She came to me at one point and said, why isn't anyone talking strap with me? He said, because what are you playing? Are you playing anything? And she goes, well, I want to. And I said, well, when you're ready, you come to me. We'll put a plan together. She came to me and said, what have I got to do? And I said, okay, so obviously you've got to make a move now. And if you, me, KJ end up in 3, if you made a move on Josh, now you're going to have to make a move at some point. If you made a move now, it'd be one of the greatest moves of the whole game. It could win you the game. I said, so we knock off Josh, get rid of Jordan. Mark and Sam would take them out with the rest of us. Be Shay, KJ, you and me, and we end up, us 3, fighting it out at the end. And we've all got a story, different stories. KJ's got that master move. You've got your that move, and I'll just fight on there. There's a survivor, so fair play. So she actually was at that point where she was contemplating all that. Kate, but at this point, we're at a block, and I just can't move Josh. Chrissy's on the fence, and I'm just going where it's a stalemate, and I don't know how. And I was so frustrated. And KJ, before lockdown, before that tribal, KJ says, Dave, I need to talk to you. And Sam once again spotted this. She knew something was up. She said, okay, sit down. We've got 5 minutes. I said, righto. She said, here's what we've got. And this is her brilliance. KJ had that for overnight, and she'd actually thought about exactly how she wanted to go, and she wanted someone who was on board with it. I was the most frustrated guy on earth right there, and she just gave the answer to blow this thing sky high and create something great. And to me, it was either Sam or Jordan was the targets. Either way, it was busting up the partners. Sam was actually the real target because we thought we had to weaken that double idol.
That was my other question there, is it was kind of, I was wondering why you guys went Jordan instead of Sam. I assume it was because you guys didn't know, like, this is your one opportunity to flip the game, and you don't know if Sam has an idol with her or not. And if she played it, that would have ruined the plan.
Absolutely, 100% correct. Once again, acting 101, top notch. Whether she had the idol there or not, she had said, well, I'm going to play it. Yeah, I'm going to play it for me. There was no way we're going to ruin this advantage by taking a second guess. It had to be a clean a clean kill, one bullet done. And so it ended up, poor old Jordan was the scapegoat there, which I ended up using Sam's, I'm going to play it for me to convince Josh that she needed to go. So it ended up working out. So it was a master play by KJ to actually send the right people home, because she could have done it other ways. She masterminded to allow the opportunity, found the guy that wanted to break up the stalemate, and executed to perfection, I thought.
It was definitely one of the best moves all season. And I'm not just saying that because I have you here. I know the audiences were begging for something. Just watching you and Chrissy go along with the guys, we were like, come on, please flip on them, because Josh and Mark were such in a powerful position. So wonderful job to you, man. That was a great move.
Yeah, thanks. And it's all about timing. I mean, I was copping a flogging from work, and people, going, oh, are you ever going to do anything? And you just go, but there's no point when you're on a gravy train going off and eating soup. You've got the gravy. So write it. But then there's a point, the timing, like the KJ advantage. And this is Survivor. There's always a twist. It had come and it was like time to strike. This is it.
Well, let's talk about how your game came to an end here. And it was, we were down to the final 7, that key moment. And it was actually this is when Mark played his first idol, I believe. And it came down to a 2-2 draw then between you and Josh. And I wrote it down, and I think I had it down somewhere, but I think it was Chrissy and Shay who ended up switching their votes to you instead. So my question is, in that moment, I'm watching it and I'm like, why are you eliminating Juicy Dave here instead of keeping him as a number? And I'm sure you're going to be like, well, that's a question for them. But do you have any reason why they flipped to you in that spot instead of going Josh, who was by far, no offense, but probably leading the game at this point?
Oh, absolutely. So this is the conundrum. Interesting enough, I'll just backstory a little bit. KJ in that tribal, because Shay was talking and KJ said, we need to change. She said, I'm going to change. No, we need to look at changing our vote because we're going to vote Mark. So the idea was to flush out the idols. So we're going to vote Mark or Geordie. And those guys were voting Geordie. We're voting Mark. And if Mark didn't play his idol, he was going home. So perfect, numbers worked and everything. Then KJ said, we need to change the vote. And I thought she was, and here's the greatest mistake of my game right here. Because Shay was talking, I thought she was getting convinced by Shay. I said, no, you cannot listen to that. That's just noise. Stay. However, I changed my vote and I changed it to Geordie. And if I'd said to her, switch to Geordie would have gone home. Mark would have played his idol in vain. I would have been the only guy who'd played the idol correctly. And then I would have got that opportunity to go back in there with KJ, much stronger, and Chrissy.
Whoa, that is a huge game change, altering moment. Like if that went down.
Yes. And it was that close, and it was only myself freaking out that she was, because I thought she was going to change with Shay, what Shay was saying. But I realised after that she was saying we should change it. So I did change it because I felt something was up. And I went, no, let's just get Geordie out. He's got to go. And yeah, so that's one of those moments where you go, there may have been a real opportunity had that happen. It didn't.
I think it was, now that you say that. It wasn't between you and Josh. It was you and Geordie. That's what it was.
Yes,
I believe.
Correct.
Yeah. That's my fault.
Yeah, no. And then, so because of my one change vote, it became a draw, which sort of blew them away because who's changed flipped? But imagine that if KJ had done it too, Geordie out the goal, the Joker out.
Looking back, that was my very next question. You just answered it there. I was going to ask once we got past this, is there any moment that you regret in the game? And I think you just told me the moment that you regret in the game.
That is it. And you just never know where it could have gone to from there. And the fact that Mark would have played his idol in vain, just gold. But he ends up playing it correctly, saving himself, ends up being a draw. And then now why they were throwing me under the bus is because my conversations with Chrissy. So Mark and Josh were working closely with Chrissy. Chrissy's very social, talks a lot. They realised that they were losing control. They realised, because I was getting in their head, I said, you have to make a move on the big boys for your game. And I said, don't leave it to the end where you're forced to play it, because it's not a game play then. That's just forced play. I said, play it now when you've got choices to vote everybody else, but you flip. Because I said, do you want to win the money or you want to make friends? And that was her decision. And she decided that she preferred to make friends.
Before we wrap up the game side of things, I have a question. There was only one thing I couldn't figure out about your gameplay. And that was, you kept getting referred to as a wild card. Everyone in their confessionals kept saying, well, Juicy Dave, he's a wild card. You don't know where he's going to go. I only saw you really, from what I can remember, and there's so much Survivor coverage with your season and the US season now and everything. From what I remember, there was that one big flip. And you seemed pretty loyal outside of that. Were you playing both sides the entire time? Did they have a reason to kind of say that you were like a wild card player? Or do you believe you were mostly trustworthy when you got in alliance, you stuck with them for the most part?
In that middle red tribe 2.0, the second phase, the tribe swap, that's where a lot of loyalty was born. Like that was
the big boys,
the regulators. Yeah, the regulators we call it, and we're regulating, and even a song on it. But and that was a born out of loyalty, and that's why where the trust and everything become, because they were trying to vote me out in the first one early, and you hear Jordan say, no, he's too valuable in challenges, and that was my thing. If I was going to be old, I had to be fierce, and then I had to be loyal. And then it was every man for himself. And the point was, I said to Mark, I said, I'm a gun for hire, mate. So I'm in it. And then we've got the regulators, did all that stuff. I always kept them, I'm with you, but understand that I'm not blindly with you.
You kept your options open.
Yeah, and the thing was, and I felt I needed to keep them a little uneasy so I could actually maneuver a bit. In hindsight, maybe I should have just done a full bluff with them and gone sideways. But that's just the way I was. I was just, I'd never go blindly into it. And that's where maybe that wild card was, because I'd always, have to think about it, cross-reference it, and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, in hindsight, maybe. And advice to other players, even if you're wanting to do that flippy stuff. And I think Dave, the Golden God, does it so well. He's so invested in one guy and then just flips it.
Complete 180, yeah.
Oh, complete 180. Just takes everyone out of the park. Now, that's what I needed to probably do in hindsight.
Well, unfortunately, we had to see you go on that day 42. Thank you for correcting me again. I was so funny when for those of you who don't know, I messaged him. I messaged him and said, okay, here's what we're doing for the podcast. And on it said you left day 21. We were reading up, making sure we covered everything. And you left on episode 21, not day 21.
You earn every hour out there, so you don't want to be ripped off an hour, never mind days.
No, I totally hear you. But your job in the game wasn't completely done. I do have to get your opinion on that final vote. You ended up voting for Mark, as did everyone else. Was there any way that Shay or Chrissy could get your vote? Or were you, Mark, you were walking into that tribal council, you knew you were probably voting Mark?
One of the great regrets of the edit was that they never showed any of my jury speech. And Mark Wales actually puts it up there. Pull it out of the vault and play the best speech of the night. It's on his thing. Because I absolutely let them all have it. Because here's the blood versus water twist that I thought was absolutely epic. They voted my daughter out in that first week or so, right in the beginning. And here I am at the 47 at the last day, and every single one of you three had something to do with Brianna's demise. And the blood versus water is now I get to choose who actually played rightfully or wrongfully against Brianna. And I just went, that's the greatest twist on earth. Because in normal Survivor, yes, you have friends and stuff and moves get made. But when it's your blood, 26 years daughter, and someone's done the dirty, and they're all sitting there begging for your vote, that's the opportunity to just go, hold on. Let's rewind for a second. This is blood versus water. And that was the twist to me. I just went, this is gold. I just put it on them. I just said, Chrissy, you, blah, blah, blah. Shay,
why could we not see that?
This is why Mark said it was awesome. Shay, you are the greatest. You turned on her when she thought you were a friend and all this. And I knew all this stuff because I built it up over the cross-referencing all this story. And even with Mark, I gave him a hard time. I said, Mark, you've played such a linear game, man. You've been in the top majority. You end up with two top majority all the way through. You've ended up with two idols. I had one idol and knew how powerful that was. And you had two. And so if you look at a cross-section of experiences as a survivor, I probably lived a lot of it, but you've done this linear. And he actually took that on and said, yeah, he's probably right. I mean, good way of looking at it. But when you go out with our play out last, Mark, tick, tick, tick. When you look at Shay, you go, look, played, man. What a great challenge, but everything else was left wanting. Chrissy played social. Unbelievable. Like the fact that she got there in the end after, and you had to
knowing nothing about the game.
But, correct. But when you had the opportunity, and this is what burned me, I said, when you had the opportunity to play, to outwit, because you outlasted, but you didn't outplay and outwit. You had the opportunity. I gave it to you on a plate there, but you didn't take it. So to me, you tick one box as well. So there's no way those guys, and even Sam and Mark's moves and everything, I respected that was just, phenomenal teamship. To get, not to play an idol for Sam, to allow her to look like the most callous husband on earth, send his wife into the jury so she can do her business in the jury and have some influence, maybe, not meant to be, but just is in there at least.
Masterful move. I mean, you had a pretty long relationship with Mark too, right? Going back to the Blood 2.0 tribe, as you stated and stuff. So I thought as well that friendship, maybe, you guys worked together. Maybe that went into it a little bit as well.
They asked me a question, what was the scariest moment? And I said, well, here I am. We're playing that football game up to our knees in water and everything. The ball gets thrown out, goes straight to Mark. And I'm looking around, who's going to take this bloke out? 117 kilograms of trained killer. And it was me. And so I'm running in slow motion because I can't move any faster. Running in slow motion going, Brianna, what have you done? I'm about to throw myself into this killing machine. I end up, he palms me off like absolute faceplant, like I'm nothing, but I've managed to maneuver and I've got under his arm and driven him into the water. And out of that, he's gone. He walked past when they'd won that and they were heading off to camp. He walks past and says, dangerous Dave. And there was a respect thing there because I might have been the oldest, but I had some fire about me and I liked him. And when he came into the tribe swap, he and I would talk stories and business and stuff. And we got on. And I got on with Josh and I got on with Jay. Jay, man, was my original bro.
So we have Father Dave, we have Juicy Dave, and now we have Dangerous Dave.
So you got also Decoy Dave. Did you remember Decoy Dave? Okay.
I remember Decoy Dave. So we just have a man of ton of personalities here. Well, I got one final question for you, and then we have a few fan questions really quick before we wrap all this up. I was a huge fan of your game. If you haven't been able to tell that, absolutely loved the entire journey. There's more, especially, casual fans just look at it from the game side of things, but Survivor nerds, we have to go deeper than that. And we know after the game, you leave with so much more than just the memories you make in the game. You leave with friendships that are going to last a lifetime. Juryville looks like the the most fun.
Funnest is right.
The most fun party in the world. And we keep up with you guys on social media as well and see all the times you go out and hang. So what are you going to take away from, as you've stated, the experience of a lifetime? What's going to be taken away now that the game has wrapped up and is all finished?
Look, it's an amazing thing. Mark put it this way. Mark said, this is the closest thing you come to war without going to war, which from a SAS guy, 10 tours of Afghanistan, he understands it. He said, because you're under pressure constantly and your bonds are formed under that pressure. And even though we're against each other, we're actually for each other because it's 24/7. And there's only an hour out of that where we really go gun for each other. And
and so there's these unbelievable bonds that you build with people that I think no one else understands unless they've been through it. And so there's that, you've got these links with people, and Chrissy and I are good buddies. We had some great laughs. Mark and Sam and Josh, Jordan, these are guys that I talk to regularly. And if you're in Melbourne, that's just where the majority of people are. That is party town, hanging out with Khan and Geordie and all those guys.
I got to go to Melbourne.
Yeah. No, it's good. And up here, we had some good times too. And we actually had in the finale, one of the fans here set up the finale in the pub, and he never once had one of the Survivor people, castaways, turn up. Anyway, Brown and I said, well, let's rock up there. So we rocked up, and then the Brains versus Brawns guys rocked up. So there was actually six castaways.
This guy had the night of his life.
Yeah. and they were going off their planet. They're loving it. And it was the greatest night out. It was just good people watching a great show. It ended well. And then we hit the town. It's incredible. But takeaways, yeah, I think it's that friendships. It's that bonds you have of an unbelievable experience that you can't sort of explain to someone. And the partners struggle a little bit in reality, because they go, what is this? Why you need to talk to them? Isn't it over? But it's not. It continues.
And I mean, I see where Brianna gets her podcasting skills, because you're just fantastic at this. Answering that question, we'll get to it. That was one of our 2 fan questions, something to do with after parties and everything. So you're just so good at knowing what's next. I almost missed it. I was looking back before we finish up with the fan questions, make sure we didn't miss anything here. Okay, you gotta walk us through this medical report. I heard something either fun happened or funny or something. You gotta walk us through what happened here, because if you guys don't know, as soon as they're off the show, as far as I know and what I've been told, you instantly go to medical, get checked out, get weighed and everything to make sure you're doing great. So walk us through what happens here when you get voted off.
Well, these guys have a duty of care to look after us. Like, it's as harsh as it is, and that's real. They have to make sure that people aren't suffering. Like, you don't want dietary issues and all that sort of stuff. So you have to be checked constantly, and that's a duty of care for people who are looking after you. So that's fine. Day 1, challenge 1, Brianna goes, can't believe it, we're split into tribes, and I'm up against Brianna. And Brianna says, don't hurt me, Dad. And I said, no, it's all good. But I said, we've got to fight for our tribe. And she goes, yeah, I know, because that's what we agreed to. And like, in my day job, I don't get to practice jumping off huge ramps of great verticality.
Really? Are you
surprised? But so my technique might have been a little bit off, and I've gone, instead of following the slope down, I've sort of launched out and landed on the underside of my rib cage.
Oh, I know where this is going now.
Oh yeah, and absolutely, and absolutely smashed my ribs. Land in the water, can't breathe. Got to run over, get the ring. Brianna's jumping on my back, trying to tackle me.
Is this first challenge, day 1?
Day 1, first challenge. Go to medical. And I go, yeah, that could be a broken rib. So the 8th rib on the medical report says 8th rib suspected broken. So if I look sluggish in some of these things, yes, 3 days without food, but also every time I moved, it hurt to breathe even.
Oh, I'm definitely going back and watching these challenges now.
Yeah,
I gotta go back.
And the thing is, being an old guy is one thing, but being a whingy old guy with an injury that's no use to anyone, that's an instant out the door. So I had to keep it to myself. And I just go, there, you're right, Juice. And I just, Dave at that point. And I just go, oh, yeah, that's a bit stiff from that thing. But literally, and I went to the doctor, and he just went, no, that looks like it could be broken. 2 weeks later, I'm climbing up one of the, and this is the one where we're going up the cargo net.
Yes.
And I up there, Mark Wales pulls me, and instead of pulling me up and over, he pulls me across the corner. And so the 10th rib on the right side snaps that. So this one had 2 weeks to recover.
You need artificial ribs.
He said 2 to 3 weeks to recover, then you'll be breathing normally again. So 2 weeks later, I do this one. He says, yeah, we think that, yeah, so I saw that happening, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Then there was a rotator cuff, but with all the shoulder work and stuff, that was busted. And then an ankle injury that I did have was aggravated. So I was limping around on an ankle that was swollen and looked like it had been sprained. And then at the end it says, and two superficial knife cuts.
Okay, so for those of you listening or watching, and you don't think it's as tough as everyone thinks it is, he is telling you it is. Because wow, I cannot believe that's my thing, is how many injuries some people go through just to hear all this.
Think of this. So you're going into a challenge and you see climbing, jumping, tackling, pushing, and you've got two ribs that are compromised. The pure adrenaline of the challenge wouldn't feel a thing. Just go into it, and then afterwards you just be going, oh, geez. But it's the adrenaline. It's amazing what you can do when you're in a position to have to do it.
When we talk about all the versions of David here, you can add Destroyed Dave to the list.
Another one, absolutely destroyed.
Man.
They said this is one of the most epic exit medicals we've seen. Good on you, Juice.
I was gonna say, next time you go in, you just need to make sure you got everything ready to go. And man,
so
that's
even
tough
day one, yeah, crazy. And
so
sleeping. So when you're sleeping on the dirt, you dig yourself a little bum hole, and you'd lie there, and you'd end up exhausted. So you'd end up sleeping until you woke up with pain from the numbness and everything. So then, with the ribs and everything, you'd throw yourself on this side, put your hip on that side, go to sleep again until the pain woke you up. Then you'd go to the other side, go to sleep again until the pain woke you up. And you do that about 2 or 3 times, and that's the night done.
Can't be an easy night's sleep, can it?
So and then you get up to do challenges and stuff. So you can look pretty lethargic out there, but that's why it is.
That's why us Survivor fans are the most insane people. You just said all that and how hard it is, and I'm still sitting here like, man, I want to go on that show. So
I gotta get on that show. Yeah, that's right.
Until I actually get out there, obviously. But I got a couple fan questions for you here. This comes from Christy on Instagram. First off, thank you guys so much for the questions. So I stated how we saw you guys hanging out a bunch, and we saw you at that kind of finale party. I saw you and Brianna both went to that. So Chris asks, favorite watch party moment during the season? Your favorite memory of watching the season back, one that just pops up in your head here.
What was it? There was one there. Oh, yeah, no, it's good. That's a good question. I actually need to think about that. There's a couple of absolute crackers where I think it was like one of the ones where I can't think of this exact one, but the greatest liar on earth here or the greatest liar on earth there. There was a couple of those moments where you're just going, I can't believe I actually did that. And I was so fired up and, so convicted to get a point across and stuff. So I think,
there's so many good ones.
It might come back to me. There's the one specifically I remember jumping out of my seat going, well, I crack up.
Well, if it comes to you while we wrap up here, let me know. But I do have a question. This person asked a question that we always ask on the podcast. It's always the last thing we ask whenever we interview someone. I think you know where we might be going with this. And this came from Jur13 on Instagram. If they called you for an all-star season, would you come back? And the question that we always like to ask castaways to wrap up the show after we go through their season, would you go back? If Jonathan said, hey, Juice, come on back on the show. Would you do it, or was this kind of like a one-time thing?
Look, for one, if you're invited back, especially as an all-star, then that's an honor in my regards. And I just go, how could you not sort of consider that and go, let's make it work? To be honest, they did ask me that straight out of exit, and I just had to do this.
They asked already if you wanted to come back.
Yeah, they asked. I think they asked everybody, but they asked me, and I was just like, "Whoa!" I couldn't comprehend it. It was just way too soon, too much emotion and pain.
Yeah.
Just been evicted by my buddies, Yeah. Oh, look, I think one of the greatest moments there was when they did take me out, and I actually just off the cuff of my head said, let's going back to the previous question is. If you guys think I'm a greater threat than that bloke sitting there, then that's a badge I'm willing to take. And
who are you pointing to? Who are you talking about?
Geordie, Dr. Chaos. Like, he had been so chaotic and been a target for so long, and then ultimately they evicted me because I was a greater threat at that point in time. So if you felt that I was a greater threat than this guy sitting here, then that's a badge I'm taking with me. And that was a point where I actually went, yeah, that's right. Good on you.
There was a lot of those moments this season where I'm like, what? Your threats are all over the place here.
yeah. I mean, having Sandra, one of the greatest players, absolutely gunning for you, absolutely wanting you destroyed, and surviving it. That in my gameplay, I think, wow, to be able to maneuver through that, because I tried, and this is something, I tried to do a deal with Sandra because she said, you voted me. And I said, no, I actually didn't. Have you got time for this?
Oh, yeah. I was worried about you, man.
No, that's okay. I said to Sandra, so it was pretty soon after that, the shit show, and she said, yeah, but you voted for me, and no one who votes for me can sleep near me, because her and I were sleeping buddies there,
Yeah.
While I was trying to maneuver my way around, and I said, Sandra, but I didn't vote for you, and she said, rubbish, blah 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 blah, which we now know was Sam.
Yeah, exactly.
And I said, but I didn't, and I said, and that night I said, I brought and this is just for the edit, can't say cameraman, but I brought the cameraman along, and I went, witness this, man. And I said, Sandra, when this show plays in America, you watch it. If I have voted your name, I will transfer you $1,000 US into the nominated account.
Did she message you when she saw that?
No. And I said, and she goes, what if you didn't? And I said, then we're square. What I'm trying to tell you is, I will pay $1,000 if I'm lying to you, and it's witnessed here. And I don't want to pay a throwaway $1,000. So what I'm saying is, I didn't vote for you, but I'm willing to shake on this. So she shook on it, and I went, now, the fact that I didn't vote for you, people would never realize that you and I could work together. They think we're mortal enemies. We could actually do something great. Now, I thought she was a game player that would buy into that as a real wild card if she trusted me. As I turned away, Sam spotted it, and she's throwing me completely under the bus, saying, he's trying to tell me that you voted for me and all that sort of stuff. So she burned that bridge completely, blew it up, and then stomped on it. And
no chance that was going to happen.
There's my wild card going out the window. So at that point, Sandra had to be, every opportunity she had to go, because that's what got me into strife as well, because I said, highest risks in business, you always get rid of the highest risks, and she's played how many times and won twice, played 6, won twice, got to go. Like, can't have her in the and Benny goes down to the water and tells her that, like, gosh, no wonder she was after me. But then when we did the tribe swap, Geordie comes on board and claims it all, but it was always, she had to be the one that goes.
Being a fan of the show, how cool was it to play with Sandra in the first place? Like, that had to be an incredible feeling, just to look across the way and there's no way I'm on the show with the queen of Survivor right now. There's no way.
Yeah. She is fantastic. To be honest, when the chopper came in, I'm going there, and I thought it might be some TV star or whatever. Sandra walks out, and I said to Brianna, "Who's this?"
Well, you didn't say the Oprah line. You got to be happy about that. You did not call her Oprah.
That's right.
I never figured out who said that. Was that
classic.
Chrissy?
That would have. It had to be Chrissy. It had to be
Yeah.
Chrissy for sure. And Brianna was explaining. Brianna knew exactly, and then she gave me the quick rundown. I went, "Well, I take 100% respect here." And I tell you what, Nina is one of the great. She will be great.
Yeah.
She was one I didn't have antenna on. I just thought, gee, how am I going to handle her? I didn't quite know. Everyone else, you sort of figure where you can box them. She was one that was just, yeah, she's a wild one. So difficult to pinpoint, very social, very strategic, ruthless as you saw. So she'll be back for sure.
So in the end, you kind of hinted at it to where you put a hand in their face and said, nope, way too soon. I just finished 42 days. Give me some time. Is this something where like you're not sure? You're not sure whether you would want to go back or not?
You know what? If it was an All-Stars, I think out of duty to that honour, I would. If it was another twisty-turny thing, I don't know.
Yeah.
It took a lot out of me.
Brianna would be all over you if she finds out that you got an invite to go back. She's going to be like, you have to go.
You owe me an invite, Dad.
Oh man, well, I'm sure
you're going to have fun with Brianna. You're going to have fun with.
I'm looking forward to it. I know your son hasn't played the game yet, but I'm waiting until he plays the game. Because then I can interview the entire family.
Yeah, that's right. You need to interview Michelle. She got invited. Someone asked her to go on Australia's Greatest Bake Off. So she said, I'm going to be a reality star too. And say, holy smokes, watch that space.
I mean, your family all over TV now. We just need a Goodchild like reality show. That's what we need.
That was enough.
Oh no, but thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. I know we went long here, but that's a sign of a good podcast. It was so fun talking to you, man, and getting insight. Where is the best place for fans of yours to find you on social media here?
I only really do Insta. I do Facebook, but it's via Insta. So the official Juicy Dave is my Survivor handle. So if you just look up Juicy Dave, the official, whatever, it'll come up there. And Be Good 31 is my everyday one. So you get a whole lot of cycling and all the stuff that I like to do. I like to eat, drink good beer, eat good food, drink good beer, cycle a lot.
Live the dream. Live the dream. I do have to ask little fun question here. When I messaged you today and said, looking forward to the interview, you were already up biking to work. How early was that?
It wasn't that early. There's been much earlier. That was actually a late start, but like we during the summer be you're up at 5 a.m. and riding, and do 2 hours, head into work, have a shower, start work at 8:15. It's good fun. It's a good way to. I call it my mental health machine.
I felt lazy instantly. I was waking up at like noon my time. And I already looked on the story. I'm like, you're already up and moving and stuff. I'm like, what?
Yeah. So it's what skating is to Brianna, cycling is to me. It's a way of if there's stress buildups or whatever, emotional stuff going on, you get on the bike. Particularly mountain biking is where you can't think of anything else but what's in front of you. So you've got to cleanse your mind of all thoughts. And so I love it for that. And it's adrenaline buzz. Road cycling's a purity of it. It's the speed and just that you can meditate and stuff going up hills and all that sort of stuff. So, and gravel biking, so all three is out in the bush, there's no cars and stuff, but you're out in nature and you're just listening to it all, and it's fantastic. So to me, mental health wise, riding the bike, that's why I do it.
I'm still amazed with the mountain and kind of the outdoor biking, just because I hate to say it. I don't want to sound lazy here, but I'm one of those people. I'm good on a bike till I get up to one of them hills and it's done. And I live in kind of a hilly town too. So I can make it down the street until I hit the first hill. And I'm like, well, might as well just circle it back around here.
Cyclists are sadistic to themselves. They love hills. And then they go into a hill going, why am I doing this? They get to the top, go downhill and erase all the bad memories and can't wait for the next one. It's a madness. It's a sickness that we all have.
Well, Man, it's been the most pleasure talking to you, and so lucky to have you join the podcast. And we know you've been following along for a while, and we really do appreciate that as well. So thank you. Brianna's in trouble now, though, because we've spoken with you, we've spoken with Mila, so we know all the behind the scenes.
That's right.
So she
can't get away with anything.
Better bring her A game. Like I said, I know where she gets her podcasting skills from, because you were a natural today, man. And open invitation. Whenever you want to be on the show, just let us know, and you're more than welcome to come back and chat with us.
Randy, really appreciate those kind words. I mean, to be honest, it is great hearing feedback like that, and I think every castaway deserves, someone like you respects what they've actually been through, and regardless of what's happened on there and how it all seems, and to respect the effort that it takes to actually go on that show, emotionally, physically, mentally, and to come out and to have people who are actually genuinely interested in you as a person and your story and all the fun bits and some of the not so fun bits, but it's good to have a chat. And I think, really appreciate it, man.
That's what makes the show of Survivor. And a lot of people don't see that, is like I said, the relations and everything, finding out these people. And that's what really makes the show. It's easy when you're sitting at the couch, but you can't judge until you get out there and like he says, dig out a bum hole and lay down there and wake up 4 times a night.
Then you know you're living.
Exactly. Well, thanks again, man. And thank you so much for taking the time, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Randy.